Hello, everybody, and welcome to my project presentation. As an intern for NIFA, I've been working hard to gather all of the zoning codes across the state in NIFA's quest to make housing more affordable statewide. I will discuss the need for this, along with my methods and a background discussing soft skills. My cousin, a high school teacher, football and track coach, recently married a very bright high school math teacher who recently got her master's and is working on her PhD. Not long after they got married, they decided to move to a town where the wife had found a job opening in a local school district, and the husband would be able to commute to the town where he had been teaching. They had found the perfect area for them. The wife's brother was a contractor based near Nebraska City, where they were from. Her brother offered to help build a house for them. Her brother, however, hadn't had much experience building outside Nebraska City. Beyond being generally unfamiliar with the area, her brother had to also figure out all the different zoning laws. The county was very similar to most of the counties that Nebraska is composed of, in that most of it is zoned for agriculture. In the case of Michael and his wife, figuring out how exactly they were going to build their house took longer for them than to actually build their house. One of the more extreme examples here is Morrill County. All the white area you see is agriculture zoned, which requires a minimum of 80 acres for a non-farm development. If you were to wish to build, for example, even an acreage in any of this area, you would likely have to go through a lengthy approval process. Many of the zoning administrations in counties across Nebraska are very short-staffed. In just trying to get the zoning codes for all the counties for research, I found several with staff that could only be reached on a certain day of the week. In one case, I left a voicemail to a zoning administrator whom I had been discussing getting the zoning codes from. She called me back almost a whole month later. 19 of the 93 counties in Nebraska have only agricultural zoning districts. The example I just showed, Morrill County, isn't one of these counties, but it is almost completely agriculture zoned. This lack of consistency among zoning codes not only affect people trying to move into the area, they create barriers for individuals already living in the area as well. In trying to build their house, as Michael and his wife were, they experienced great difficulty figuring out the zoning code. This happens for people who grew up in the area as well. A study done in 2017 by Daly et al. At the University of Nebraska-Lincoln found that the highest rates of poverty in Nebraska are found most concentrated between counties in the most rural parts of the state. For someone in western Nebraska trying to decide between building in the area they already live or moving somewhere and renting in somewhere like Rapid City or Cheyenne, Wyoming, the path of least resistance is clear. This also brings up the concept of brain drain. There are many towns in Nebraska that have experienced a decrease in population since the early to mid 20th century. This is a graph showing the percentage changes of population of counties in Nebraska, with growth being shown in blue and shrinkage being shown in red. There are many towns in Nebraska that have experienced a decrease in population since the early to mid 20th century, as I've discussed. These towns in shades of red and orange coincide pretty well with more impoverished counties seen in the previous graph. Now that I have discussed the rural impacts of these zoning regulations, I will bring up the need in Nebraska for diverse housing, or multifamily duplexes or triplexes. Even with a rectification of the housing market, a large portion of the working class can't afford a house. This and the already present poverty levels in Nebraska are why there is an important need for affordable housing across the state. I have previously made several points about county zoning codes, but the city codes in Nebraska are a different story. When examining the cities with 30 highest populations, or cities with about 6,400 or more residents, there are very similar common grounds between them, especially regarding minimum lot sizes. Between the minimum lot sizes, several aspects of these 30 biggest cities have common minimums. This means that a PUD or plan unit development could be written that could fit between all of these cities if done correctly. Most of these top 30 cities allow for accessory dwelling units. Regarding minimum setbacks, the ranges are pretty easy to work with, especially in the front and side setbacks. Throughout my research, I've done most of my work in Microsoft Excel, and I started by getting all of the contact information from all of the zoning directors in the state. Many of them who had to contact to get the zoning codes from. From this, I have laid out every zoning district in the state and compiled intents for all of them, along with the minimum lot sizes and the uses for them. With these, I've then been able to gather data about commonalities between them. I also did the same for cities. These are the top 30 biggest cities in Nebraska. I have learned a great many things from doing this project. To begin, this has been the first real applied research that I've been able to do. It has been some of my favorite work that I have done so far, and a lot of the time when I'm doing the most intensive research, it doesn't even feel like I'm working. I think that this is one of the most important transferable skills I've gained from this experience, and it will likely transfer well to any career I pursue, which will likely be something in law or zoning. The teamwork and network element I have been exposed to at NIFA has been unlike any other work environment I've had thus far. I have worked with a couple individuals within the office as well as outside of the office to get work done. It appears as though this summer I will be working with many that don't even work in my office: zoning officials, government research officials, and more. Through this, and with help from my supervisor, I have learned to navigate a corporate environment and work with those inside and outside the industry to get the help I need. This will not only aid me in my career, but also in my personal life in regard to networking.